much is a band worth these days? How should you approach pricing when talking to new venues? Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Adam. Welcome to the channel. My goal is to help you make good money playing music. If that sounds good to you, please consider following the channel. You know, we're a small community here, but I think this content would benefit a lot of folks, so every little bit helps. Speaking of good money, it can be very difficult for musicians to talk about money when putting themselves or their project out in the marketplace. I feel for a lot of us, myself included, that it feels strange putting a price tag on our talent and our hard work. Nevertheless, for us to get gigs, money is always going to be a part of the conversation. So I wanted to cover how you as a musician should approach prospective venues and clients when trying to get yourself booked. The first thing you need to understand is the way that musicians and bands typically get paid for live performances. For most public shows, meaning clubs and bars, you're either going to be paid a guarantee or based on ticket sales. The guarantee is exactly what it sounds like, a guaranteed amount of money that a client or venue will pay you regardless of how many people show up. This kind of agreement can be great for a band, but it puts all the financial risk on the venue, which has to do well in order to offset that cost. And with that reduced risk, the band could potentially be making less money than they could if they were selling tickets for the event. For ticketed events, the band is going to be paid a percentage of total ticket sales once the venue covers their operating costs. That percentage can vary and is usually negotiable, but it all needs to be covered before any date has been confirmed. This kind of setup can be more lucrative, but also much more risky for the band, because in order for them to have a good payday, they have to bring as many people as possible to the show. Some venues also do a mix of a guarantee at ticket sales where they'll pay you a certain amount of money, but if ticket sales reach a certain level or exceed a certain expectation, you get an additional bonus. Now, you as a band don't really get much say in how a venue operates, but these two models are the way that you are ultimately going to make whatever it is you're going to make. Now that you understand how you're going to be compensated, you need to understand the economics of live performance for a bar or club. You as a band are providing a service. That service is not talent and musicality. It's audience retention and alcohol sales. And your value to that venue is dependent on two key factors. One is your reputation and track record, and the second is the market itself. What a live band makes for a performance can vary from band to band, city to city, hell, even venue to venue. If you're just getting started, you have very little leverage to ask for more than the going rate that the club normally pays. And you won't get that leverage until you can prove to them that booking your band means that they get a packed house and huge bar sales. Now, if you're an established act, make sure that you're keeping track of how well you do at other venues that you've played before. If a venue provides a settlement report at the end of the night that covers how many tickets were sold or how well the bar did, keep those handy for future prospects. Being able to provide hard numbers to a prospective venue will help them understand what value you bring to the table, and they may be more comfortable paying you a bit more and shouldering some of the risk in booking you. Now, I can already feel some pushback about this approach.
Hey man, isn't it the venue's responsibility to bring people into their club?
Aren't we just the entertainment for their guests?
Why is it ultimately our responsibility to bring people into their venue?
Look, I totally understand that there's differing schools of thought about who's ultimately responsible for bringing people to a band's show. But the reality is that if the venue doesn't have a good night, you won't be asked back. Or in the case of a ticketed event, if they don't make any money, you don't either. So in the end, it is ultimately our responsibility to make sure that everybody's happy at the end of the night. Moving along. When approaching a new bar or venue as a band or solo musician, your best pricing strategy is precedent. You should feel comfortable telling a booking agent what you are making at other venues in your market. Just throwing it out there, but you may also want to pad that number a little bit so you do have a little room to negotiate. When presented with your going rate, the booking agent is either going to accept that pricing or counter with a lower number. If they do counter, try providing those bar sale stats to see if they're willing to compromise. If they're not, I suggest you look at these three factors and pick two of them to justify booking the gig. Is the gig going to be fun? Is there a probability of tips to help offset the lower guarantee? Is the gig convenient and or low stress? Normally, if I think I'm getting two of those things, I'll probably make it happen. But if you and the booker can't land on a mutually agreeable number, it is totally fine to pass on a venue and try again later down the road. Perhaps in 6 months' time, you will have gained the leverage you need in order to get paid what you think you're worth. It's also totally okay to take what you can get in order to get your foot in the door. That decision is ultimately up to you and your bandmates. One last thing about this topic, and this is just my personal opinion, but if you're a band leader and pricing comes down to somebody getting paid less, that person should be you. I do my best to make sure that my guys get paid their fair rate every show we play. Because my band plays private shows and those tend to pay more than these public dates, I don't mind taking the hit to take care of my people because I know that ultimately it'll sort itself out down the road. That about wraps it up, but should I do a separate video about private event pricing? pricing? Leave a comment and let me know if that'd be something you'd be interested in. Thanks so much for tuning in once again. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We post new videos here every single Friday. Also, if your band has mastered playing clubs and venues and you're looking to level up to private events, I have blank band contracts and writers available on my website. Check out the link in the description for more info. Hope your gigs go good this weekend, and I'll see you next time.